My ex will be a bridesmaid at our wedding. It's non-negotiable. Connor said it the same way he'd ask for more coffee, casually, expecting automatic agreement. We were sitting at our favorite restaurant, that small French bistro in the Pearl District, where he had proposed 18 months earlier. The same table, the same golden afternoon light filtering through the windows, but this time, the words coming out of his mouth carried no promises. They carried poison disguised as modernity. My fork froze in the air, a piece of salmon dangling midway between the plate and my mouth. I repeated, slowly, testing if I had understood correctly. Aubrey, your ex-girlfriend, will be a bridesmaid? Bridesmaids, technically, plural. He cut his steak with surgical precision. My mother thinks it would be a beautiful demonstration of emotional maturity, modern family, evolved relationships. You understand. The smell of garlic and butter that moments before made my mouth water now churned my stomach. Through the window, I saw a woman pushing a baby stroller, laughing on the phone. Normal life, common joy. Things that seemed to be moving away from me like water slipping through my fingers. Connor. My voice came out firmer than I expected. Are you serious? He finally looked at me. Those brown eyes I thought were so deep now seemed opaque, rehearsed. Lauren, we thought a lot about this. Aubrey and I have an important history. 7 years together don't just disappear because we went our separate ways. If you really love me, you'll understand that this is about honoring all parts of my journey. We thought. The word ricocheted in my skull. He and his mother? He and Aubrey? How many conversations had happened without me about my own wedding? I put the fork on the plate. The clinking of metal against porcelain seemed deafening. And when were you planning to consult me about this? I'm consulting you now. His tone carried a false patience, that voice you use with a stubborn child. But I need you to understand, this isn't a request. It's who I am. If you can't accept the important people in my life, maybe we need to rethink if you're ready for this wedding. There it was, the ultimatum wrapped in pop psychology tissue paper. 3 weeks. There were 3 weeks left until the wedding. The invitations had been sent. My dress hung in the closet like a white ghost waiting for me. The venue booked, the flowers ordered, white peonies because Connor said they were his favorite, even though I preferred wild roses. Wild roses. When was the last time I chose something based on what I wanted? Are you giving me an ultimatum? I asked, each word measured. I'm asking you to be the mature woman I always thought you were. He took my hand across the table. His palm was warm, firm, familiar. 5 years of that hand holding mine. 5 years of me molding my life around his. Baby, this doesn't have to be dramatic. Aubrey is an amazing person. You'll love her once you put your ego aside. Ego? As if having boundaries was a character flaw. I pulled my hand back. Slowly. I watched my own fingers as if they belonged to someone else. The nails I had painted a soft nude because Connor found red too aggressive. The engagement ring that suddenly weighed like lead. What if I say no? He sighed, that long, suffering sigh I knew so well. The same one he used when I questioned why we always had to spend Christmas with his family. The same one when I suggested we live in a neighborhood I chose. Then maybe you need to make a choice, Lauren. Do you want a wedding, or do you want to be right? The waiter approached. More wine for the table? No, I replied, surprising myself. Actually, could you bring the check, separate? Connor blinked. Separate? Separate. I picked up my purse, my phone, my dignity that had been dormant for so long. You know, Connor, you're absolutely right about one thing. I need to make a choice. I stood up. The chair scraped against the wooden floor. 2 couples at the tables nearby tried not to look, but they did. Portland is like that. Everyone pretends not to pay attention while absorbing every word. Where are you going? Connor remained seated, a wrinkle of confusion between his eyebrows. This was not how the script was supposed to go. I was supposed to give in. I always gave in. To make a choice. I placed three $20 bills on the table, more than my half, but it didn't matter. You said that if I couldn't accept Aubrey as a bridesmaid, we should rethink the wedding. So let's rethink. Lauren, now there was a threat of alarm in his voice. Sit down. You're being ridiculous. No, Connor. For the first time in 5 years, I'm being clear-headed. I walked through the restaurant on legs that trembled but held me up. The afternoon light of Portland blinded me as I pushed open the door. The fresh October air filled my lungs. It smelled of coming rain and wet leaves. It smelled of freedom. My phone vibrated before I even reached the car. Connor. I ignored it. It vibrated again and again. On the fourth ring, I answered. You're being childish. Come back here so we can talk like adults. Adults don't give ultimatums 3 weeks before the wedding, Connor. My voice was surprisingly calm. Adults don't plan your wedding with your ex-girlfriend without consulting the bride. My mom is going to be very disappointed in you. And there was the naked truth. It wasn't about me and Connor. It never was. It was about Connor and Brenda, Connor and Aubrey, Connor and all the people he put before me while I convinced myself that this was what mature love looked like. Then you'd better call her. I hung up. I sat in my Subaru, which I had bought used because Connor said new cars were irrational financial waste, and finally let my hands tremble. Not from fear, from something I couldn't yet name, something that felt strangely like relief. 3 weeks. I had 3 weeks to undo a life I took 5 years to build. Or I had 3 weeks to build a new life. I called the only person who always told me the truth, even when it hurt. Kier. My voice faltered on the first syllable. Are you at the restaurant? I need you. I'll be out in 10 minutes. My apartment or yours? Yours. I don't want to be anywhere that smells like him. Vodka or whiskey? Whiskey. And Kier? I looked at the ring on my finger. Under the cloudy light, it seemed less bright than I remembered. Bring a shoebox, too. There was a pause. Then that husky laugh I'd known since college. My God, are you finally going to do it? I did. I just did. About damn time, Mitchell. See you in 20. Kieran's apartment smelled of rosemary and garlic. He was always testing some new recipe. I arrived before him, using the spare key he gave me years ago, for emergencies. This apparently qualified. I slumped onto the worn brown leather sofa, the one he refused to replace because it has character. Connor hated that sofa, said it smelled of neglect and questionable choices. I had always loved it. Kier arrived carrying a paper bag and a box of Converts, sharp green eyes analyzing me. You look surprisingly put together for someone who just blew up a wedding. Haven't processed it yet. I accepted the glass of whiskey he offered me. It burned going down, but it was a good kind of burn, cleansing. Ask me again in 2 hours. He sat beside me, smelling of kitchen smoke and that mint soap he used. Comforting, real. Tell me everything, from the beginning. So I told him. The lunch, the ultimatum, the casual way Connor mentioned that he and his mother had thought a lot about including Aubrey. How every word came out of his mouth as if it were the most reasonable thing in the world. He said that if I didn't accept it, I wasn't ready for the wedding. I spun the glass between my hands, as if having a minimum of self-respect was emotional immaturity. Kier was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was too controlled, that kind of calm that precedes a storm. You know I never liked him. Yes, you've made that very clear over the last 5 years. But do you know why I never liked him? He turned to face me. It wasn't best friend jealousy. It was because I watched you disappear, piece by piece. Lauren, who painted watercolors every weekend, became Lauren who doesn't have time for childish hobbies. Lauren, who wore red lipstick, became Lauren of discreet nude. Lauren, who laughed loudly, became Lauren who checks how much noise she's making. Each word was a dagger of truth I had been avoiding for years. He never asked me to change. My defense sounded weak even to me. No, he did something worse. He made you feel like changing was your idea. Kier refilled my glass. Lauren, remember when you called me 6 months ago, 3 in the morning, drunk and crying after that dinner at his place? I remembered. I had tried to forget. You said, and I quote, "Kier, why am I never good enough? What's wrong with me?" His voice softened. Nothing is wrong with you. Never was. But a man who makes you feel that way, everything is wrong with him. My phone vibrated incessantly in my purse. Connor, you're overreacting. My mom wants to talk to you. Be reasonable. Aubrey is willing to talk, if that helps. That last one made me laugh. A harsh, humorless sound. Aubrey is willing to talk. How generous. May I? Kier pointed to my phone. I handed it to him. Watching his face change as he read the messages was unsettling. Jaw tight, eyes narrowing. Lauren, he lowered the phone. He's been gaslighting you for 20 minutes. You're being irrational, this isn't who you are, you'll regret being dramatic. Kier looked at me with something between anger and sadness. This is manipulation, full manual. I took the phone back. I reread the messages with new eyes. He was right. Every sentence designed to make me doubt myself, to make me feel wrong, to make me run back, apologizing for him having given me an ultimatum. There's more, Kier hesitated. Something I found out 2 months ago. I was waiting for the right time to tell you, but I guess there's no right time for this kind of thing. My stomach tightened. What? Remember when Connor said he was in Denver that week in August, financial consulting conference? I remember. He posted photos from the hotel. He was in Denver. Kier pulled out his own phone. With Aubrey. My cousin works at the hotel where they stayed. Recognized him from my Instagram. They checked into the same room, Lauren. The world tilted. Not dramatically, just enough to make everything seem slightly off, like a crooked picture frame you can't unsee. Your cousin could be mistaken. She sent me a photo of them. He showed me. And there it was. Connor and Aubrey. Her hand on his lower back. Him smiling, that way. The way that used to be just for me. Why didn't you tell me? My voice came out flat. Because you were in the middle of planning the wedding. Because I knew you'd ask for proof. Because I was afraid you'd hate me for bursting your bubble. He touched my shoulder gently. And because, honestly, I hoped I was wrong. I took his phone, looked closer. Date of check-in, August 15th. The week Connor worked so hard that he barely managed to call me. He said he was too exhausted to talk. I laughed again, that sharp sound that didn't feel like mine. Lauren? No. I stood up. The room spun a little, whiskey on an empty stomach. Don't tell me not to be angry. Don't tell me to process it. I deserve to be pissed off. I was going to say, finally, you're angry. Kier smiled. I was starting to forget you knew how. My phone vibrated again, but this time, it wasn't Connor. It was Brenda Hayes. Lauren, dear, Connor told me about your little scene at the restaurant. That's not how we resolve conflicts in mature families. Can we schedule a couples therapy session? Free of charge, of course. You clearly need help processing your insecurity. I read it aloud. Kier's expression was pure scandal. She didn't. She did. And you know what's funnier? I started typing a reply. She's a couples therapist. It's literally her job to know this is emotional abuse. But when it's her son doing it, it becomes emotional maturity. I sent, Brenda, thank you for the offer, but I don't need therapy to know I deserve a partner who doesn't give me ultimatums involving his ex 3 weeks before the wedding. I appreciate you revealing where Connor learned manipulation. Good luck to you both. Holy crap, Kier read over my shoulder. You're really going to do this? I already did. I blocked Brenda's number, then Connor's. My fingers trembled but didn't stop. Kier, I need your help. Anything. Tomorrow morning, I call all the vendors and cancel. In the afternoon, I email all the guests. In the evening, I took a deep breath. In the evening, I rip every trace of him from my apartment. I'll help you. He picked up the shoebox he had brought. But first, there's a little ceremony to perform. I took off the ring. It was harder than I expected. Not out of regret, but because my finger had molded around it. It left a pale mark, a ghost of a broken promise. I put it in the box. How do you feel? Keir asked. I looked at my bare hand. The mark was already starting to disappear. Lighter. Canceling a wedding is surprisingly similar to planning one. Endless calls, spreadsheets, a lot of people judging you. The difference is, nobody says congratulations. I woke up on Keir's couch with a whiskey headache and 53 unread messages. I had blocked Connor and Brenda, but I forgot about his groomsmen, his cousins, the co-workers I barely knew but had strong opinions about my meltdown. Connor is devastated. Couldn't you at least try to be mature? Aubrey is a lovely person. You're letting insecurity destroy something beautiful. Insecurity. That word kept appearing, as if recognizing manipulation was psychological weakness. Keir appeared with coffee and a warrior's expression. Ready? I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. First call, wedding venue. A soft-spoken woman named Dorothy who listened silently before saying, "Sweetheart, in 30 years of doing this, I've learned one thing. Men who give ultimatums before the wedding give worse ultimatums after. You made the right choice. The cancellation fee is refundable if it's within 30 days, and we're at 21. You got lucky." I burst into tears, of relief, of validation, of exhaustion. Second call, photographer. She just said, "I understand," and refunded half the deposit. Use it on something that makes you happy. Third call, catering. The owner, a boisterous Italian man, said, "Ragazza, my daughter cancel wedding 2 days before. 2 days. Best decision of her life. Now she's lawyer in Seattle, new fiance who treats her like queen. You will be fine. No cancellation fee from me." Each call was like that. People who should have been annoyed by lost business offering kindness, as if they all knew something I was just beginning to learn. Red flags don't get better after you sign a certificate. But then I called the florist. "Mitchell? Lauren Mitchell?" Her voice turned icy. "Interesting you call. I received a call from Brenda Hayes an hour ago saying the wedding was canceled due to your emotional instability and that we shouldn't refund anything because it was a nervous bride's whim." My blood froze. She did what? She's a longtime client, suggested that your instability meant you wouldn't honor the cancellation properly, asked us to keep the full $4,200 deposit as compensation. $4,000. 3 months' rent. Money that I had saved because Connor said we should split costs equally, even though he earned twice as much. Are you telling me she tried to steal my deposit? Tried, but I always verify both sides, so I'm calling you. What really happened? I told her everything. The ultimatum, Aubrey, Denver, Brenda's message about my insecurity. My voice was surprisingly calm, detached, as if I were describing a scene from a bad movie. Long silence. Then, "My God, Lauren, I'm so sorry. You will get a full refund, and more. Those white peonies you ordered, I think you should have what you really wanted. Wild roses, you once said. I'll deliver a bouquet to your address. No charge. Every woman deserves beautiful flowers when she makes brave choices." I hung up and looked at Keir. She tried to steal from me. She's a therapist and a thief. Talented. His tone was light, but his eyes were furious. "Lauren, do you realize what this means? Brenda already knew. She knew Connor was going to give you the ultimatum, probably helped formulate it. And when you said no, she immediately started a smear campaign." He was right. The speed with which Brenda acted was not a reaction. It was a plan. My phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Lauren, it's Aubrey." The world tilted again. Her voice was soft, almost gentle, exactly as Connor described. "Aubrey," I forced a neutral tone. "What do you want?" "Look, I know things are complicated, but Connor is really hurting. He loves you. He just wants you to be a part of us, of our family." A delicate pause. I know it might seem strange initially, but I promise, once you get to know me, you'll understand. Connor and I, we have history, but it's not a threat to you. It's just evolved love. Evolved love. The same words Connor used. Aubrey, my voice came out dangerously calm. Were you in Denver in August? Silence. Too long. Connor told you? Her voice changed. It lost its softness. It became defensive. No, he said he was at a work conference, too exhausted to call me. Remember? Each word came out sharp, but a picture is worth 1,000 lies. You stayed in the same room? That's not. You don't understand. It was closure. One last chance for us to have closure before he got married. Closure? I laughed, harshly. Anger rising like bile. You call it closure? I call it betrayal. You're twisting. No, I'm seeing clearly for the first time. I took a deep breath. Aubrey, I want you to listen carefully. Connor gave me an ultimatum. Either I accepted you as a bridesmaid, you, whom he slept with behind my back, or I canceled everything. I canceled. And not because I'm insecure or immature, but because I finally realized that a man who loves me wouldn't ask that, wouldn't do that. Lauren, you want Connor? You can have him. Apparently, you were already having him anyway. I hung up. My hand trembled, not from doubt, from pure anger. Keir handed me another whiskey. You're my hero. I feel sick. Normal. You just found out your fiancé cheated on you and tried to manipulate you into accepting his mistress at your wedding. He paused. But Lauren, you also just stood up for yourself. For the first time since I've known you two together, you said no without apologizing afterward. He was right. Whenever I confronted Connor before, I ended up apologizing for being too sensitive, for not understanding, for creating drama. My phone vibrated. A message from Connor. Aubrey is crying. You were cruel to her. She was only trying to help. Something inside me broke, not with sadness, with sharp, glass-like clarity. I typed, Connor, I have something to say. You cheated on me with Aubrey in Denver. I have pictures. You gave me an ultimatum about making her a bridesmaid, knowing you slept with her behind my back. Your mother tried to steal my florist deposit, and you have the nerve to call me cruel? You and your modern family can go to hell. We are done, permanently. Do not contact me again. My lawyer will be in touch about asset division. Send. Block. I looked at Keir. Do I need a lawyer? You rent, car in your name, no joint account. Technically no, but it sounds pretty intimidating. He smiled. Proud of you. Why do I feel so empty? Because fighting demands energy, and you just fought. He pulled me into a hug. Rest. Tomorrow, the war continues. Today, you survived. It's enough. I leaned against him. This friend who always saw me. Not the edited version I became, but me. And for the first time in days, I closed my eyes and slept. The email to the guests was harder than canceling the vendors. How do you explain to 150 people that the wedding is off? That the man they saw propose to me, who they toasted with us at dinners, who they bought gifts for, was a liar? Keir was by my side as I wrote and rewrote. 5th attempt. Dear friends and family, it is with unexpected clarity that I inform you the wedding between Connor Hayes and me is canceled. Not because of cold feet or bridal nerves, but because I discovered that the man I planned to marry was not who I thought. Thank you for your support during this time, Lauren. Very diplomatic, Keir commented. Considering you could have written, he cheated on me with his ex and tried to make me accept her as a bridesmaid. Tempting. My finger hovered over send, but I want dignity, something he never gave me. I sent it. 3 minutes later, my phone exploded. But they weren't messages of pity. They were messages of support. My cousin Teresa, finally, always thought he was manipulative. You deserve so much better. Coworker, Saw the signs, didn't know how to speak up. Proud of you for leaving. Even people I barely knew. Stay strong. You did the right thing. Then my dad called. Lauren, his voice was too controlled. That tone he used when he was trying not to explode. I just got your email. Dad, I can explain. No need. I need to explain something to you. He took a deep breath. Connor approached me last week, said he wanted man-to-man talk about the wedding. My stomach sank. What did he say? That you were having anxiety episodes, that you were irrationally jealous of his friendships, that he was worried about your mental stability, but loved me too much to give up. A heavy pause. Lauren, he was planting seeds, preparing a narrative for when you caused a scene at the wedding or afterward, portraying me as a father who should intervene, maybe suggest medication. My vision blurred. He was building a case that I was crazy? And I almost believed him. My dad's voice broke, because he sounded so worried, so loving, like the perfect son-in-law trying to take care of his unstable wife. Long silence. Then you sent that email, and I immediately called Kieran. He told me everything. Denver, the ultimatum, Brenda trying to steal your deposit. Dad, Lauren, you saved your own life, literally. Men like that, they don't get better after the wedding. They get worse, because then you're trapped, legally, financially, sometimes with kids. He swallowed hard. Your mom and I are driving to Portland now. We'll be there in 3 hours. We'll help you clean up this mess. I broke down. I hadn't cried since the restaurant, but now the tears came. Big, ugly, liberating. 2 hours later, my mom called. Honey, I just spoke to Nancy Wu, you know her, yoga teacher I see at the library. Mom had worked as a librarian for 30 years, knew everyone. She's married to Steve Wu, partner at Connor's law firm. Mom, I don't want to sue. It's not about suing. It's about truth. Her voice was strange, urgent. Nancy said Steve mentioned something troubling months ago, that Connor was creatively moving money for selected clients. Steve didn't have enough proof to report it, but he was uncomfortable. My blood ran cold. What does that mean? It means you might want to check if Connor has access to anything of yours, accounts, credit, anything. I hung up and rushed to my laptop, opened my online banking. Checking account, normal. Savings, normal. Investments. My investment account was $3,000 short. Transfer authorized 3 weeks ago. Digital signature, mine. But I never authorized that. Kier, my voice came out flat, shocked. He stole from me. I showed him the screen. Kieran turned pale. Lauren, you need to call the bank, now. The woman at the bank was polite but clear. The transfer had my digital signature, unless I could prove it was forged. He has my login, I whispered. I gave it to him 6 months ago when he said he could optimize my investments as a financial consultant. So you have proof of previously authorized access. But not of this specific transaction. Kier was typing furiously on his phone. Lauren, this is fraud. You need to file a police report. My phone rang. Private number. I answered without thinking. Lauren Mitchell? Male voice, formal. Steve Wu here. I hope I'm not overstepping, but Nancy told me about the wedding cancellation, and I need to be direct with you. Mr. Wu, Connor is under internal investigation. Nothing official yet, but we discovered irregularities. Client money being temporarily diverted, always returned, so technically legal, but ethically dubious. He used funds to cover short-term personal deficits. He paused. We checked all the accounts he managed, including investments from family members and close acquaintances. My heart stopped. He managed Aubrey's account? He does, and Lauren, hers is $45,000 negative, money he borrowed to cover his own debts. She doesn't know yet. We're building a case before notifying affected clients. Why are you telling me this? Because Nancy said you're a good person, and because, he sighed, we checked your account too. He stole $3,000 last week, but 4 months ago, he put your account as collateral for a $20,000 personal loan. If he doesn't pay, and honestly, I don't think he will, you'll be held responsible. The room spun. $20,000, a debt I didn't know existed. Is that legal? With a digital signature? Technically, yes, but considering you're leaving him and can prove you had no knowledge, he paused. Lauren, I strongly suggest you consult a lawyer, today, now, and file a police report about the unauthorized transfer. Establish a pattern of fraud before this becomes your legal problem. I hung up with trembling hands. Keir? My voice didn't sound like mine. It wasn't just about Aubrey. It wasn't just emotional manipulation. He was stealing from me. He planned everything. The wedding, keeping me close, having access to my finances. And when you said no to the ultimatum, the plan fell apart. Keir was pale. Lauren, this is sociopathy, premeditated. The door slammed downstairs. My parents arrived like a hurricane of hugs and protective fury. Dad heard everything. Then, in the coldest voice I'd ever heard, said, "We're going to the police now, before he realizes we found out and covers his tracks." The police station smelled of old coffee and disinfectant. The detective who took our complaint, a tired man named Martinez, listened to everything. The transfers, the loan, Denver, the ultimatum. Ms. Mitchell, I'll be honest, financial cases like this are complicated. He had authorized access. Proving criminal intent takes time. He looked at my dad. But with what Mr. Wu provided about other victims, there's a pattern. That helps. How long? I asked. Weeks, maybe months. But in the meantime, he pushed forms across the table. I recommend a restraining order based on psychological manipulation, financial fraud, and... He hesitated. Your email mentioned photos from Denver. If you have evidence of infidelity combined with evidence of financial fraud, I can argue there's a pattern of predatory behavior. We left the police station at 11 p.m., exhausted, disgusted, but strangely, clear. He planned everything, I said aloud, testing the words. From the beginning, I wasn't a bride. I was a bank account with lipstick. Mom hugged me tight. You were also a smart woman who saw through him before it was too late. My phone vibrated. Email. From Aubrey. Lauren, we need to talk. I found out something about Connor, something you should know. Please, not for him, for us. We were both fooled. I showed it to Keir. He read it and whistled low. She found out about the money. Or she's playing the victim to cover up complicity. Mom was always pragmatic. But Dad surprised everyone. Meet her. In public, with Kieran present. Listen to what she has to say. Why? Because, he looked at me with eyes that had seen a lot in 68 years, sometimes your enemy's enemy has the proof you need, and sometimes, another wounded woman is just that, another wounded woman. I scheduled with Aubrey at a public coffee shop, 1 o'clock, table near the window. Keir sat 2 tables back, reading a newspaper, but clearly watching. She arrived looking small, not the confident woman from Instagram photos, swollen eyes, smudged makeup. She sat down without asking permission. Thank you for coming. You have 5 minutes. Connor stole from me. Direct, no beating around the bush. $45,000. I found out yesterday when my accountant called me about an irregularity in the account Connor managed. She pulled an envelope from her pocket. But it wasn't just money. Lauren, he lied to me too. About what? About you, about us, about everything. Her hands trembled. He told me you two had an open relationship, that you knew about Denver, that you were fine with it, but pretending to be jealous publicly for appearances. My stomach churned. He said what? I know. It sounded strange even then, but he was so convincing. Said you were conservative, that your family was traditional, that you maintained an appearance of monogamy, but in practice, she wiped away angry tears. God, I was such an idiot. Why Denver? The question came out harsher than I intended. Because he said you'd be busy that weekend, cousin's wedding, that it was the perfect chance for us to have time without pressure. She looked at me with something like shame. Lauren, I thought I was a consensual mistress in a modern situation, not the other woman destroying an engagement. Part of me wanted to hate her, but looking into her broken eyes, I only saw a shattered mirror reflecting my own pain. The ultimatum, I began, about you being a bridesmaid. My idea, but based on his lies. She pulled out another paper. He showed me messages supposedly from you, conversations where you agreed that I should be in the wedding. I checked. Now, they were fake, bad Photoshop, but at the time, I believed it. She showed me her phone. And indeed, there were messages with my name, my photo, agreeing to bizarre arrangements. My own fake message saying, of course, Aubrey can be a bridesmaid. It shows maturity. He forged entire conversations. My voice came out flat, shocked beyond emotion. Lauren, I think he's a sociopath, clinically. Aubrey pushed the envelope across the table. I found more. Conversations with other women, 5 of them, all thinking they were special, all having money managed by him, all with empty accounts now. I opened the envelope. Printouts of messages, bank transfers, a pattern so clear it was grotesque. Why are you showing me this? Because I deserved what happened to me. I slept with someone else's fiancé. Even thinking it was consensual, I still chose to participate. She met my eyes. But you didn't deserve any of this. You said no to an ultimatum and found out the man you loved was a monster. So I'm giving you ammunition for the lawsuit, for whatever you need. I sat in silence, processing. This woman I was ready to hate was helping me? Aubrey, you are also a victim. I was, but I made bad choices based on bad information. Still, they were my choices. She stood up. Lauren, he told me you were weak, controlling, too traditional. Now I see you're the strongest of all of us. Because you left, before signing papers, before having children, before losing more than money. She left before I could respond. Keir joined me. Did that just happen? I think so. He pointed to the envelope. This is legal gold. Lauren, with this, you not only get your money back, you build a criminal case. He was right. But the weight of the envelope in my hands was more than paper. It was evidence of how completely I had been deceived, manipulated, used. Keir, I almost married him. But you didn't. That's the important part. 3 months later. The lawsuit against Connor was underway. 5 women suing for fraud. I had a restraining order. My money was frozen but protected. Connor lost his financial consultant license. Last I heard, working in the call center. Living with Brenda, who apparently stopped talking to him after the investigation revealed he also stole from her. But that wasn't my most important story. My important story was I started painting again. Watercolors, colorful abstracts that sold in a local gallery. Modest, but mine. Freelance work was better, with energy drained by a toxic relationship. And there was more. Lauren, Keir knocked on the door of my new apartment. Smaller, cheaper, but entirely mine. Ready? Today was the opening of my first solo exhibition. 12 paintings, all created in the last 3 months, all processing trauma in color and form. The gallery was surprisingly full. Friends, family, strangers who saw it on Instagram. And one painting sold immediately. Wild roses, an explosion of reds and wild roses against a gray background. The buyer approached, an older woman, perhaps 60. This painting, it touched me. My daughter is planning a wedding with a man who reminds me of your ex. Based on what I read online about your case. She held my hand. I'm going to hang this in her house. A daily reminder. She deserves wild roses, not peonies chosen by someone else. I started to cry right there, at my own exhibition. Later, sitting on a park bench with Keir, I ate tacos and watched the sunset over Portland. Are you happy? He asked. I thought about it. Happy was a complicated word. I was rebuilding. Some days I still woke up angry, some days with sadness for lost time. But also, I'm free, I finally replied, and that's better than happy. Because happy can be an illusion, but freedom is real. Deep. You should paint that. I laughed, a real laugh, not that constrained one I learned to make with Connor. Maybe I will. My phone vibrated. Message from cousin Teresa. Just on the news, Connor was arrested. Fraud against 8 victims, total of $230,000. That scumbag is finally going to answer for it. I showed it to Keir. He whistled. How do you feel? I expected to feel triumph, sweet revenge, but I only felt tired. And something like pity. Not for Connor. He chose every step. But for the version of me that almost accepted that ultimatum. That almost said, yes, of course, your ex can be a bridesmaid, because it was easier than causing a scene. I feel grateful, I finally said, for having said no, for having chosen wild roses. Wild roses? I smiled. I'll tell you on the way home. We walked through downtown Portland as city lights blinked to life. We passed the French bistro where Connor gave the ultimatum. It didn't hurt to look. It was just a building now, just a place. When I got home, I saw a package at the door. Sender, Aubrey. Inside, a simple card. Lauren, I started therapy, processing how I was complicit even though I was a victim. A long road ahead, but I wanted to say thank you for showing that saying no is possible, that women can choose dignity over convenience. You saved more than yourself that day. You saved my life too. A. And a gift, a small watercolor, crude but honest, 2 female figures, backs to us, walking in different directions. Free. I hung it on the wall next to wild roses. Reminder. Sometimes self-love looks like betrayal to people accustomed to your subservience, but it's not betrayal, it's liberation. And sometimes the best answer to an impossible ultimatum isn't to negotiate. It's to choose the third option no one offered you, yourself. The gallery where my exhibition happened offered me permanent representation. My work was in 3 states. An art magazine interview called my style emotionally visceral. Connor was serving a 4-year sentence. Brenda lost clients when the scandal erupted. Aubrey moved to Seattle. New career, new beginning. And me? I painted. I lived. I laughed without apologizing for the volume. On the 1-year anniversary of the non-wedding, Keir threw a party. Celebrating the best choice you ever made, he toasted. Second best, I corrected. First best was having you as a friend. He blushed. Rare for Kieran O'Brien to blush. Later, alone in my candlelit apartment, I held a glass of wine and looked at my city through the window. Portland glowed, beautiful, imperfect, real, like me. And for the first time in years, perhaps in my life, I felt something Connor never gave me. Peace. Not from being complete, but from being whole. This story teaches us that boundaries are not punishment, they are self-love in action, that no is a complete sentence, that ultimatums reveal more about the giver than the receiver. If this story touched your heart, if you have ever been at the crossroads between convenience and dignity, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. Share in the comments. Have you ever had to choose between being understanding and respecting yourself? Always remember, you are not difficult for having standards. You are not dramatic for refusing manipulation. You are not traditional for expecting loyalty. You are simply someone who knows your worth. And that, my friend, that is worth more than any engagement ring. More stories appear on the screen. Click to continue listening about people who chose themselves, because you deserve inspiration. You deserve truth. You deserve wild roses. And never, ever accept peonies chosen by someone else.